Okay, Kim, we're back for another week.
Hey girl, how are you?
Excellent. Excellent.
Today, there's no sun out, so people can see me.
So you can see your face and all your tan color.
My tan, I should
Yeah,
be.
you're much darker than I am this time of year. So
Rub my face a little too hard, but
so this
okay.
week we want to talk some about the message and where it comes from, and if there is one, and how we express that, and what's really coming from the spirit personality. I know that there's I don't know, there's an emphasis, it seems, much more lately to say this piece of evidence, this piece of evidence, that piece of evidence. Now let me see while they're here and get a message. Let me ask you first, what are your thoughts about that style?
Oh, do I have thoughts about that? And I think I've said it before on here, but I will say it again. If you have to stop and say, geez, let me go get a message, there is no message. There is no message,
Right.
Because the message is in the evidence. And if there was a message, it would be right there for you. It would be right there for the picking.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have to go search for the message. So actually what I think is going on and is that you're not going to get the message. You are tapping in psychically to see what's going on with that person.
Yes.
Not knowing, maybe, I I don't want to say it dawned on me, but there's been times where I have stopped myself, thinking I need to go get a message, and then thinking, Spirit's not even giving me this. I'm just feeling this.
Right.
And I will tell the person, psychically, I feel this.
That's perfect. I like that. So it's not that it's not inappropriate to say those things, but to preface with, I'm recognizing it, not grandma. I'm recognizing this stuff in the energy and what's happening right now, and in your energy and in your spirit. It doesn't mean that grandma's saying to do something or not to do something, or any of that, or the message. I know, I like what you said about the evidence being the message. While you were talking, I remembered one instance where there was a definite message, but I didn't have to say it. It was a gentleman that had passed in the water. He had drowned, and it was after a family party. So they had all been really partying. He had partied a little too much, had some to drink in him, right? He had passed out. He had got up in that state to find a restroom or to walk around, and ended up on a part of the property and drowned, right? So part of the evidence was his belt and how the belt got stuck, and his personality coming through like, I was just out of my mind, and it was a total accident. And because the family was concerned that it wasn't an accident. So that was the message, was how, and you could see the look on their faces. I didn't have to say, and he wants to tell you that yada, yada, yada. It was, this is all the evidence. This is his belt. This is what happened. And they're like, oh, not that they were happy he passed, but that was what the message they needed to know was it an accident or on purpose? And does that make sense?
Yeah. And I had an aha moment here, because what people concentrate on the message is, what can the sitter do? What is the sitter doing in their life? And then they say that you should go for the new job or whatever. That's a psychic connection. Mm-hmm. So I do believe the messages are in the evidence, like you had talked about, that pertain to their relationship or something that's going on within the family, or the family dynamics, or with that spirit person being involved in that. So I have a good example, because this just got brought up to me. I was doing a reading, this is years ago, and I thought, and the person did too, pat myself on the back, thought the evidence was really good. And like, whoa, 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 whoa. But the most profound thing was at the end, I had said something about, he's with blah, 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 blah. He also wants to tell you something that he's never told you in life. He wants to tell you that he loves you. And the guy, it was a man, and the guy started crying, and he said, because my father never told me that he loved me. So that was the message right there. It had to pertain to their relationship, what was going on with that, or could be their passing or something along that lines. And so we think that it has to be a message, like,
right, or something that we need to do in our life or change
Right.
about ourselves, and I was telling you this before we turned on the recording, but I recently was in a practice circle, and they had a relative of mine, and they kept telling me about the medium, the practicing medium, about how that person wanted me to do things on my own, and I had to, not worry about anybody else and do it in my own way, and which is kind of, yeah, maybe a good message. I don't know, but while the medium was talking about the solitude and doing it by yourself and not accepting help from anybody else, those were all traits of my relative in spirit. That is how they lived their life. So the recognition of their personality is it. But I think sometimes we look so hard, or some of us look so hard for a message or how it relates to the person that we're talking to, that we take things like the spirit person's personality that we are feeling really well and turn that into something that the sitter needs to be doing or not doing about their life.
Right. And I think an appropriate way to do it is what we talked about earlier is, bringing through the spirit loved one, letting the spirit loved one go or whatever, and then saying, all right, let me just tap in psychically to you, see if there is a, something that you can do in your life, a little message from the powers that be, whatever you want to call that, the infinite light or whatever, and see, blah, blah, blah. And I always say that me connecting to the infinite light is a psychic reading, so I'm just kind of getting my juice from that. Does that make sense?
It does. And I, whatever, I don't know.
So I just say,
if we're using the word psychic read or the energy or the soul or, whatever it is there, those things are still appropriate. They're still okay to say, they're still okay to share with the client. It's just, I think we put so much emphasis on, the spirit person that is doing it, and it's not, and I forget which teacher told me this. I'm not going to remember which one, but the idea that, we don't want to get to the other side ourselves and have a line of spirit people that say, that's not what I said to say to my loved one. That's not what I said at all. And I don't know that I want that kind of cue when I get to spirit land, So, in the practice of really honoring, because if we're doing evidential mediumship, we're honoring the spirit person's personality and saying, I'm not dead. That's it. And when we expand the reading to all the energy, then we can talk about, what we're recognizing, but to really honor that one is from the spirit person's source and the other one is from psychic or soul or whatever terminology we're using.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with stopping the reading, or you're done with the mediumship and then give a 1 minute thing. Oh, and I do understand that you need to do X, Y, and Z. Or you doing this, that, and the other thing is being recognized. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I mean, it's not evidential so much. We're talking about evidential readings. Right. Evidential readings is about the spirit person proving that life, there is no true death. So that other part doesn't really kind of come into play, So again, if you have to go look for a message, there is no message.
There is none at all. Not from that spirit person.
Right. It's in the evidence.
Right. And the other thing I just thought of is I think sometimes we need to think these spirit people do not know everything. They don't automatically know everything. They're still their personality. They still have a certain perspective, and they still have their special talents that they may have had here. Even if they're expanding on the other side, it's still them, right? So if we wouldn't go to so-and-so and ask them what kind of car we should be getting, I don't know that that spirit person would be offering that information anyway. You see what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
if we wouldn't go to them for advice here, why would we super expect it from them now?
I made an example weeks ago about, if you're having marriage problems, why would you ask your Aunt Gertrude, who got married 6 times, about marriage advice? If you want advice about what you should wear to your son's wedding, why would you ask your grandmother that wore a house coat all the time? You know what I mean?
Right. But in the same thing, that person could totally recognize that that's what you're looking for now.
Right.
Wish you well on your search.
Right.
Without, it might seem like a fine line or splitting hairs, but I think it's a necessary one when we're learning and practicing. And even when we're listening as a client, like if I go to a reading and a medium starts telling me what I should and shouldn't do from perspective of said spirit person, I don't know that I'm going to listen much more, honestly.
Oh, I'm not listening. Well, as soon as they start to say to me, this is terrible. Oh, and your mother wants to tell you that you're doing a great job and she's so proud of you for the work that you've done. And she's just in awe of your work. I'm like, nah, I think that's your perspective of what a mother should think. Like, that's not evidential to me. That's not evidence to me.
No.
Of course, my mother's proud or would be proud, or my father would be proud, or so-and-so would be proud, but that's not giving me the hardcore facts here. That's not giving me proof that they are around. If they said your mother is very proud of the way that you handled that argument with your brother on May 10th, then I'm like, okay.
Then there's a reference for the proud.
There's a reference for that. But if they're just, if the person knows what I do, obviously, if I'm in a circle and you already know what I do, and it's kind of like, I'm not taking it seriously.
Exactly. No, I think you're right. It's no, because that's a responsibility of the sitter as well, to be discerning about what's being said.
Yes.
And maybe that's a topic for the next one, the responsibilities of the sitter.
Yes. Well, I think
we did good. So if anybody has any queries, any questions you want us to tackle, send a message and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.